But much of it comes from concerns from Kenyans on whether GMO is healthy to eat. That's the first concern, is it?
Thank you. The question, thank you, JJ, for inviting me for this talk. It is quite an interesting one. And the interesting part of the discussion on GMO, there are two levels. Whether it is safe as a food. If you talk about the starch, the ugari from GMO, there might be no big difference between your normal ugari and the GMO ugari. There's literally almost no difference until you start investigating what has been added.
Okay.
Or for you to protect your maize in the farm from worms and other pests, you require to put in a toxin. A toxin is something like poison, which kills worms, all those armyworms, the one that are known to attack maize. So for you to kill this worm, you are being required to change the genetics of the maize. Yet you could have killed the worm physically using normal pyrethrum.
Yeah.
Pyrethrin is...
We use pesticides to deal with worms.
Yes.
For GMO now, you have to change the genetical modification.
So that you could now alter the taste of and the food of that maize to the worm, so that it doesn't grow. That's the kind of modification we don't really require, because if I could grow the bacteria, because we know Bt, Bacillus thuringiensis, is a common bacteria in the soil anywhere. I can grow it in my farm. I am a bacteria farmer, so I can talk with authority on this. Yeah. Why don't we grow Bt, that is Bacillus thuringiensis, make a pesticide that we can apply on our farms? It is this laziness of us looking at a farm, only one person can operate that 100, 200 acre farm, where when you plant the seeds, you can go sit pretty until the harvest time. So you don't need weeding, you don't need spraying, you don't need any other crop husbandry. You just move in, you introduce maize, and that is the end of it. For a country like Kenya, where we have plenty of labor force, a lot of youths are jobless. Why do you want to use a chemical in the genetic of the maize to protect the crop instead of you actually doing a physical control of the pesticides, doing control of weeds? Like I keep on saying that every one of us was born to be a part of the food chain in your village. You may be in Nairobi, but your village requires you. At least once in a year, you go there and help them in the food production process. That way, we ensure we don't have to turn our parents into chemical farmers. Because chemical farming is coming in to bridge the gap of lack of labor force. I can tell you, the youths working in Nairobi would do better somewhere in Nyandarua helping the farmers in food production. But we are now here in town trying to look for white-collar jobs, while the village, the country cannot feed itself. That's why GMO maize does not fill a gap here in Africa that we should be filling. I know in Europe, in America, where much of the labor in the past has not been very easy to get, it's difficult to pay a farm hand in America. So they have actually moved to chemical farming, loud up, the one that you use for weed killing. GMO is coming to fill that gap. But here in Africa, we don't have.
Listening to you,